You are watching the press junket for queering at South by Southwest.
This is Daniel Villarreal reporting with LGBTQ Nation. We're at South by Southwest 2019, and we're talking with Letitia De Bortoli. She's the director behind a new series, Queering, which follows relationships between a young lesbian woman and her newly out bisexual mother. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, thank you for talking to me.
So how did the idea and creation for this new series come up?
I think with Queering, the main idea came from my own relationship with my mom and trying to, forever years that you keep thinking about this, figure out this dynamic and why can't they just accept it and move on and everything will be great, even if it's the slightest or the non-speaking situations. I feel like coming out always builds a wall, in most cases with your parents. And I think the best way to understand that was kind of flip the roles and try to have empathy for the other end, because the most that I like to think I'm an extremely progressive person. I feel like if she called me and say, hey, I'm bisexual, I would have a moment that I'll be like, what is going on? We need to talk about this.
I love the fact that the series actually meets the main actress's biphobia head on and really starts to get into her own discomfort and to explore why she feels this way. Why was it important for you to especially approach the issue from that vantage point?
I think because that's my perspective, right? I'm a lesbian woman, not a bisexual woman. So I thought the way to be genuine is to have a perspective that I lived and I felt that way. I had biphobic behavior before and I never either didn't acknowledge or didn't think it should be a problem. As you get older and you meet more people, and I have tons of good friends, and my co-writer who supported me with the season 1 also is a bisexual woman, and you start to see that other side and you're like, wow, they keep being pushed in this really terrible corner, and we mimic the behavior that the white straight people would do to us back to the bisexual community. It's very weird, and it's why are we doing that?
Letitia's writing is so perfect that it makes it easy as an actor to try to bring truth to her words. And I think for Val in the beginning, she's so confused, and she is trying to navigate new waters, and so there's a sense of confusion that she has and just unsure about everything in her future. So I think just the vulnerability was interesting to play for me, trying to get into that character and what she would be going through.
Maybe it's to feel powerful, I don't know, it's to mimic the behavior of who is oppressing. But anyways, as you can see, I think about it a lot. Sure. And trying to get to the point of it. So I thought that was the right perspective to go for, to be genuine.
Now, what I really love about the series is it has a really great mix of genuinely funny comedy done by really hilarious, spot-on actors. The writing is really, really sharp, and it also mixes it in with some real drama and real interpersonal relationship, especially between the mother and her daughter. Why did you think that handling this through a comedic way, like how did that sort of come about?
I think I have this tendency to always write navigating between drama and comedy. I can't be in the middle. It's either something really funny happening or very deep and dramatic. And it's probably a little bit of my personality as well, so that transports to that. But I think when we're talking about coming out or really deep topics, I think people do open up, or they connect the story sometimes through the funny parts, through the comedy and relatable. You start to like these characters and they feel like you're your friends and you have this closeness with them. So then when you get to the drama of it, or the part that's maybe not so comfortable to watch, you're right there with them and you empathize a little more.
I think there's just a lot of Harper in me, and I think that was the thing of how do we, play in the comedic role, the dramatic role, the mother vulnerable finding herself role. It's so much of it, and I think is Letitia's writing and the way that she's done it. It's very human, and it's not farce. It's not over the top. It's just very relatable. And for Harper, she's a dramatic person, but she has a heart, and it's just trying to find in those comedic moments how Devin really brings out her honesty and doesn't let her all the bullshit. She's like, I know you, I see you, get that out of here. Right. And and when it comes to the people that Harper's into, there's there's this wanting and need of wanting to connect to that person, but still protecting yourself. And that's very relatable.
I'm wondering what you can tell us about the queer representation in the show, both in front of the camera and behind it.
Yeah, so there is a lot of queer representation, I think, from cast and crew. I would say 70% plus are queer or women, or we have a very international crew. I'm from Brazil originally. My DP is from Brazil as well. Our assistant camera is from Colombia. Our sound mixer is from Holland. So we have this whole mix of a bunch of foreigners that come to the US to make films. So it's a pretty diverse crew and a lot of women, which I really like it and I feel very comfortable in this environment. And it's a different set in my experience. When we take down the whole toxic masculinity of sets, it becomes a place where they love to be there and they're having a good experience and end up producing good work at the end of it.
That's fantastic. I'm really happy to hear that. I'm always surprised by the fact that there isn't more lesbian media and more representation. So, for example, there's a lot of hubbub around the return of, say, the L word, and yet it seems that lesbians haven't really been treated with consistent respect or seriousness in terms of treating like a core audience it's really worth making and maintaining, this sort of content for. I'm wondering if you've seen any trends or if there's anything that kind of makes you feel optimistic about the possibility of it getting better, or if you think there's some challenges we still need to meet.
I think there's definitely a lot of challenges, but I think I'm seeing more of show, TV, and movies where queer characters in general, lesbian characters, they have a life. Because I think sometimes people think that gay people spend their whole day talking about being gay, which doesn't really happen. We talk about other things sometimes of the day, or we come out, or we're suffering homophobia, and there's nothing else going on in our lives. We don't have jobs and get fired and have breakups. So I think the optimist part of me is seeing that there's a lot of stories where the plot moving device is your sexuality. That's not happening anymore. It's part of the character and who they are. And sometimes you're going to see it, but it's not what makes that the story. I think before, with all these great shows that I loved and had as a reference, having queer characters was a genre, which is a very strange thing because it's really not a genre. It's just the characters of the character. So that shift I've been feeling a lot with new content and new creators, which makes me very optimistic. I think the mainstream transition is the hard part.
It's important because, there's so many of us. And for so long, we haven't had anything to look at and relate to. We have the L Word. That's one show that was massive because it was the only one of its kind. And so even Tatiana was telling me, in Brazil, there's nothing. They have nothing there to grasp onto as a queer person.
I'm wondering what this series means to you, having come from the cultural context of Brazil. A lot of readers of LGBTQ media understand that the recent election of Jair Bolsonaro bodes a bad omen for LGBTQ communities there. So I'm wondering how you think your work or your influence of that culture, how that influences queering.
I think it influences any projects that I'm involved because in Brazil, being LGBTQ is a completely different experience than in the US. Now it's probably one of the least safest times we ever had in the country with the new presidency. So it's always in my mind. I don't have another way to put it. I don't stop thinking about it. It's horrible. I'm obviously in a privileged situation because I'm not there dealing with the day-to-day and the changes in everyone's lives. But I definitely feel very inclined to shoot a project in Brazil that I was pushing to a little later because of funding, and I'm like, when I get in mess of that and just do it now because it's the time sculling this more than ever. We definitely have a lot of challenges and very little space for LGBTQ representation in the mainstream media, even in the independent spaces. So I get really excited about the possibility of doing that because of the things that I do here. Give me a little advantage point to go back and produce more content.
What sort of content would you want to produce there, this project you're talking about?
Yeah, I have this feature script that I'm writing about coming of age queer kids in rural Brazil.
Cool. That's
probably my life, yes.
I'm curious if there's anything else that you'd like to say about the series or that you'd like to tell our LGBTQ Nation viewers.
I don't know what I want to tell your viewers. Let me think. I think they should definitely check Queering out and support LGBTQ content, support female filmmakers, people of color and queer that are trying to produce content, because it's really challenging. And sometimes when you're on the other end, you don't know how much more we have to go through to put content out for you. So if you have an opportunity to support any artist that you really like that is queer or a person of color, please do it, because it helps a lot and it means a lot to us too.
And of course, please check out Queering on YouTube. And if you like it, share it with your friends. Tell everyone about it. We were really excited to take a look at it, and we're equally excited to sit down and talk to you. Thank you so much for your
thank
time.
you.